All right, ladies and gents, we're going to begin by doing our interactive binder page to get started with our lesson. So on page 7 in your interactive binder, you are going to write the words opposites and absolute value at the top. So on page 7, opposites, and absolute value. Once you've done that, pause as you need to. You're going to go into your green binder and you're going to find this paper. Okay, in your green binder, you are going to, after you get that out, cut around the outside. And we're going to fold in half. So go ahead and pause the video and do those things. When you're done cutting, you should be folding your paper in half so that it flips open like this. You are going to put some glue on the back of the paper. You are going to glue it down on the top of page 7, and then you're going to put a cut on it so that each of these flaps open. All right, so now that you're finished, page 7 should have the words opposites and absolute value on the top. Page 7, and then you should have it glued so that you can flip open each of these. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's look in our interactive binders. We're going to add some notes in here. First, I'm going to begin by drawing some numbers here on my number line, okay? So I'm going to start here. I'm going to label -4 and work my way the whole way across. Okay, so I have my number line labeled. If you need to stop and pause, you certainly can do that. Now that I have it labeled, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show how -2 and +2 are opposites. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a dot here at -2. And notice I'm using different colors. If you want to, you could do the same thing. So again, pause as you need to. Here's -2 and +2. You can see that 2 is 2 away. -2 is 2 away, just in the opposite direction. They both meet back at 0. Okay, let's look at another one. I have 4, +4, and -4 are opposites. So here's my +4. Here's my -4. And if I were to hop 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or I can show in order to get to 0, and in order to get to 0 in the opposite direction, I have to move 4 spaces. We could diagram that either way. Okay. Sometimes we write negatives as this. So OPP means opposites. So the opposite of -5, and we read that, or it's read as the opposite of -5. So I'm going to run off the page there. Okay, just like that. So if you look over here, it says 2 integers. We learned about integers. Those are our numbers on our number line, right? They are opposites if they are placed on a number line that's the same distance from 0 but on opposite sides. The sum, so when I add 2 opposite numbers, I always get 0. So if I owe Mrs. Banda $2, so that's my -2, and I give her $2, I'm back at 0, okay? If I find, sorry for my shaking guys, Mr. Myers has $4 in his wallet, I take that $4, he's back at 0, right? Okay, or I give him $4 and then I take his $4, he finishes with the same amount of money that he began with. So opposites are just numbers on the opposite side. All we do is we change that positive and that negative sign. Let's turn in our journals to page 46. Okay, so in our journal on page 46, go ahead and turn there now. Pause if you need to. we are going to focus on the word opposites. Now, I'd ask you to use your folded number line to answer some questions. You'll see at the top of the page, I actually went ahead and drew a number line for us. So it's asking what number is the same distance from 1 and 1/2. So the first thing we need to do is we need to identify where 1 and 1/2 is. 1 and 1/2 is going to fall in between here, where in between 1 and 2. So if I look, 1 and 1/2 is 1 and 1/2 units away from 0. If I wanted to go 1 and 1/2 units away from 0, the only other way is I could go in the opposite direction. So I could go here to the left, 1 and 1/2, which puts me at -1 and 1/2. We want to know which number is the same distance from 0 as -4. So here's my -4. If I want to get back to 0, I have to hop 1, 2, 3, 4 times to get to 0. So in order to go 4 in the opposite direction, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 away in the opposite direction, and that takes me to +4. If I look down here, the next example, it says the number 7 and -7, 7 or +7 are opposites. The numbers 1/2 and -1/2 are also opposites. So we need to talk about what an opposite is. We are going to set our journal to the side. We are going to grab page 7 in our interactive binders. Okay. So now that we have that information in our interactive binders, let's jump back here to journal page 46 and let's put some of our information in here. So the definition for the opposite of a number, so that would be a number that is the same distance from 0, but on the opposite side. And that's the opposite side of the number line. How do you find the opposite of a number? Okay. We could do what we did up above on the number line and count the distance. Okay. It's the distance from 0, but really the easiest thing to do is simply switch the sign, right? So if it's positive, it goes to negative, and if it's negative, it goes to positive, right? So back and forth. Why is 0 a special place? Because the distance from 0 to 0 is 0. It doesn't have any value. So it's the same, okay? It doesn't change. So let's talk about a couple of these. Give the opposite of each number, plot the opposites on the number line. So the opposite of +3 is obviously going to be -3. The opposite of -4.5 is +4.5. Go ahead and pause the video and you finish the last 4. Okay, let's see how you did. You should have had +5. You should have changed this to a -3/4. You should have went to a -1/3, and this becomes +2. So let's go and let's plot these numbers. So here's my 3 right here. To find -3, I have to go 3 in the opposite direction. So if I were to fold this on this line here, it would be symmetrical on either side. Hey, there's that word symmetry we talked about in our graphs earlier when we talked about distribution. Okay, here's a tough one, -4.5. We sometimes have trouble plotting this. Notice for -4.5, I go to 1, -1, -2, -3, -4, and then I have to keep going to -4.5. So how do I find +4.5? I go to 1, 2, 3, 4.5 is right here, okay? And we should probably also label these so we can do that. So here would be -3. Next one is -5 is right here. So we want to go to the opposite side to positive 5 and match those up. 1/3 is I go and I think about splitting this into 3 pieces. Okay, right here and right here. 1/3 would be here. See, it's 1/3 away. So negative 1/3 in the opposite direction would be right there. Okay. Let's go with 3/4. So that would be I splitting this into half and then into fourths again. This would make this 3/4 here. So negative 3/4 would be negative 3/4 in the opposite direction. Notice that it is to the left of the 1, so it's going to be to the right of the negative 1. It doesn't make sense to put it over here, okay? It has to be right here at negative 3/4. And then finally, let's grab maybe an orange, and we can look at the last one, which is negative 2. So negative 2 is right here. Positive 2 would be on the opposite side. So if I were to fold this, you notice how we go red, purple, orange, yellow, green, and blue. It's the same on the other side. Red, purple, orange, and so forth. Okay. And then finally down at the bottom, why don't you take a minute and see if you can answer those questions. Good, pause. All right, now that we're back, let's look at those questions. The opposite of a positive number is a negative number, right? The opposite of a negative, we make a positive, and the opposite of 0, yeah, there is not one. That is a trick question. Negative and positive numbers can be used to describe a lot of different situations. So we talked in class how negative and positive numbers can be used to describe the temperature. They can be used to find distances above and below the surface of the earth or above sea level. They can be used to describe money. So there's lots of different situations where we can use that negative in addition to the positive number. If we look on journal page 47, we can see a situation where we have sea level here at 0 and then anything above and below. Okay, so let's look at some of these locations. Mount Everest, which is the highest point on Earth, is 8,848 meters above sea level. Okay, so you can see that they plotted A right there. And they plotted A there because it looks to me like each of these are in an increment of 1,000. Okay, so we always has to have even intervals. So it looks to me like each one is 1,000. So they went here, here's 8,000. Here's 9,000, 8,500 would be in the middle here. 8,848 is closer to 9,000 than it is to 8,000. If we look at B, the lowest point on Earth is 10,911 meters below sea level. So I'm going to start going down. Here's 10,000. I have to go past that to 10,911, which is very close to negative 11,000 meters. So I'm going to plot that right here, and I'm going to label it. Notice it says plot and label each of those. My third one, okay, oops, and I'm sorry, I should have rewritten that. So we write that as, if we want to describe it as a number, it would be a negative 10,911. That negative tells me it is below sea level, below 0. The highest point on Earth reached by road is the Amana Pass, which is at 5,610 meters above sea level. So again, we would go to 5,000. 5,500 would be right here. So a little bit above that, and we're going to label it C. Go ahead and pause the video. After I write this here, 5,610, it's positive, so I don't need my plus sign in front of it. Go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and plot the rest of them, and then you can unpause it, and you can play it and check your answers. All right, so if we sneak a peek here, and you can check out the rest of your answers. So you can see that a D is above, and then you can see, so it's above 0. Right here, you can see that E is below 0. You can see that F is up here right below 0. And finally, my last one is positive, so it'll be up here. There's G. Now, let's talk about some situations. We already did talk about this, I mentioned this. Temperature or money would both be situations where there's positive and negative numbers. Maybe you can come up with another one. Oops. Sorry, guys, I'm not sure why that got twisted there. Choose one negative point and one positive point. So I picked negative 5 degrees is 5 degrees below 0, burr. 85 degrees is 85 degrees above 0. We could go swimming when we did that. And finally, what does 0 mean? 0 means is that we don't go anywhere. The temperature would be exactly 0. Sorry guys, this screen protector makes my handwriting so sloppy. Okay, so I don't know why I put a Celsius there. We usually use Fahrenheit. Okay, but the temperature is exactly 0, so we don't go above or below. We stay exactly at 0. All right, so that kind of wraps up our lesson. Opposites would be where I change the sign from a negative to a positive, and then we can use those negative and positive numbers to show numbers above or below 0.